Welcome and welcome back. In this video, we're going to attempt to answer the question of how do you get the bell to go where you want it to go?
That is what we're going to be doing.
All right, but for what skill?
Well, we can focus on the, this will apply to the snatch as well, but let's focus on the clean.
Okay.
We were chatting a bit earlier about cleans and the value. We don't think the skill gets a lot of attention, and it should. It's very important.
It's hard.
It is. We happen to think it's the hardest one to truly get. It takes the longest, we think. It's valuable. You know, you need to get it into the rack, you need it to press, you need it to do so many things. It's a skill in and of itself, but people seem to not pay attention to it. Kind of like us before we really started getting into kettlebell training and figuring out, you know, how to do it right, beat up our elbows. But the question that we specifically had was, how do you conceptualize what people call the pull in the clean? How do you get the bell to go where it is you want to go? And we've changed how we've taught this over time. It's a little bit complicated just because, you know, you can tell one group of people and they understand exactly what you're saying, the terminology works, and then you tell another group of people and they're scratching their heads. So let's see if we can lay it out a little bit in detail and see if this makes sense. A couple things we need to think about. I can see the pull in really two phases. So there's a pull that keeps the bell apace with your body. Okay, you move a kettlebell with your body, not with your arm. So as you're moving, if I'm here,
okay, yeah, I don't want to just stand here.
Right. So as you're standing up, and you're coming into your clean, if you're not already pulling, the result is going to be the bell is going to start to move away from you. Okay, so go ahead and go do that again. If he's not pulling yet, that bell's starting to come out. Now yank it. That's where we get these big. That's where we get the big torso motion. We get a lot of rotation. We get a lot of arm. Like, oh, my elbow hurts. I don't know why. And then you see someone doing their clean, and you know exactly.
It's a dirty clean.
So we have the first pull, the initial pull, and that means the goal of that is to keep the bell moving at the same rate as your body. So if you stand up really, really fast and you don't pull, you're going to swing. So there's got to be something that's already directing the bell vertically. Remember, the clean is a vertical skill. Even though you're using maybe horizontal motion through the hips and a little bit through the knees to move it, it's still a vertical skill because it's got to go from the ground to here, okay? Nice and close. It's not the swing, which is out here. You can call that a horizontal skill, that's fine. So you have the initial pull, and then you've got a redirection, and the question is, when do you want the redirection to happen? You want the redirection to happen when the bell is effectively weightless. So there's going to be a period right about here where the bell has already moved up. Go ahead and go through your clean. Now, as he's here, that bell, we don't know if that bell is weightless. In order for a bell to get weightless, it needs to be moving up faster than gravity can accelerate it down. Very simple. So if it's here, we don't know. If it's here, we know. If it's above this plane here, we know that he's made that bell weightless. This is when you want to redirect it. If you're going to pull with your arm here, that bell may not have reached the speed that it needs to reach. You can probably go a little bit lower, especially when you're experienced, but the bulk of the pull is going to happen right about here, or the redirection, let's call it. So we'll call the first part the pull, and then the redirection to get the bell into the rack. So we're really thinking of a two-phase movement. Some people will say, keep your arm as tight to your body as possible. That's totally fine. The goal is to stay connected. The problem though is even if you do keep that connected, if you don't have a really solid pull even earlier than this, the bell's still gonna go this way. So you've got to do something to make the bell tight to your body. Okay, so you already got to start pulling as soon as that bell leaves the ground. You've got to start pulling, and then once it gets above your waist or right around waist level, you're going to do the redirection. So that's how I think of it. Does that help? Does that make sense to you?
Makes sense to me. So basically what you're saying is, as soon as you got to move that bell, you start pulling.
You have to. Otherwise, the bell is going to start. It becomes a swing. Yeah, the bell's going to start moving away from you. So you got to start pulling right away.
And then once you finish and you're standing up and that bell is starting to come up
above waist level,
above basically horizontal, then you're going to give it that redirect and slide that hand under and land nice and softly in the rack.
The reason behind this is if you start to pull, or if you start to redirect, you can pull straight up. As long as you're moving the bell faster with your legs and your body than you are with your arm, it's okay. But what tends to happen is if people think about pulling too soon, it becomes an arm pull.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean that you can't do it.
More biceps.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that you can't do it. It's just these are the tendencies that people have. So if they pull too soon, it tends to be powered by the arm in the back rather than the legs, which is what we want. So we want to think of the legs are going to power the bell, okay, and then split second after you're going to start with the first part of the pull, and then once the bell is moving sufficiently, once it's fast, then you can do the redirect and pull it back.
Got it. So pretty simple then. Strong legs. Legs do the work. Remember, we're moving our body, not the bell. Don't think about that bell too much. You start that pull right away, and then you redirect when it's on its way up, or essentially weightless above waist level.
Right around waist level is usually when you know what's going to happen. You can go a little earlier, especially
can
if
feel
you're
it,
experienced.
yeah.
You can feel it. But the bell's got to be on the way up. If you wait too late, then obviously you're going to be pulling it and it's here, and it's also going to be bad. So just remember with specifically kettlebell training, because it can be so technical in terms of what you need to do and when. Not that it needs to be complicated, but there are some things you need to figure out. Just remember, if the language doesn't make sense to you, think about it and figure it out. We've had, one thing that really screwed us up was a snatch is a swing that ends overhead.
Yikes.
Yeah, and horrible explanation. Whoever created that, give me angry comments
Boo!
down. Give me
pal.
angry comments down, but I'm calling you out. That was no good.
I hope you've changed.
Because what ended up happening is you had a whole generation of people who thought this was the right way to snatch.
And we got the videos of us doing it to prove it. Maybe I'll post them.
So, make sure if you don't understand the language, get clarification and have it unpacked a few different ways. Other people have explained the clean in ways that I think are totally fine, but didn't work for me. Yeah. So I like to think of that, what makes sense to me. First pull, then the redirect, then we're solid. That's what works for us.
Yeah.
If it works for you, give it a shot.
Yeah, and inevitably, again, we can't say this enough. The pro tip is make those legs do the work, and it gets easier. Trust me. All right, that's it.
That's it.
All right, stay strong, y'all. Yeah.